Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very summery, very sunny episode of the League One Lowdown. Looking ahead to what is sure to be maybe not the most interesting final day of the season, with a lot of things decided in the last week or so. But still, it's the final day of the League One season. Looking forward to everything cracking off. Sam, it's been a lovely couple of days here in the UK. How are you doing?
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. We should start doing podcasts outside. Everyone needs to get wireless access points for outside, and we have outside podcasts from now on.
We should be having a pint in our hands instead. I've got
But
half a
yeah,
glass of water and a computer screen in front of me, but there you go.
we'll have a
We should, we should,
podcast while we're having a barbecue.
we should call it a pint cast or something like that. And there you go. There's our idea for summer. We're going to come up with a weekly pint cast or something like that. Just have a chat in a pub on FaceTime to each other, record it, and put it as a podcast.
I think that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, so as normal, we'll go through the predictions, which isn't going to plan, if I'm honest.
Not
we'll
for
have
you.
a look. No, it's not going too well. We'll have a look at a few bits and bobs that have happened throughout the last week. A few battles decided as well, and then look ahead to some of the games. Well, all the games that are happening, some of them in more detail than others. But Sam, we'll start with the predictions league. And there was a point where everything was all rosy, right? Everything was lovely and hunky dory.
Yeah.
And it's not anymore.
No, because at one point I think you had Birmingham 3-0, and it was 3-0 at one point, and then they went and scored again, which kind of halted your progress. We would have again been level on points going into the final week. But as it is, I lead by 2 points going into the final match day. There will be predictions throughout the playoffs, but playoff games are worth double points. So if we get the correct result in a playoff match, it's 6 points compared to 3. So you could actually get a 4-point overturn, so which could make it quite interesting. And I've got to hope that my team don't get there. Otherwise, there'll be a lot of bias scoring.
I've lobbied quite heavily for this because I think I need it. I'm not confident at all in final day predictions. So, but we'll wait and see. If you've got any questions, we should mention to those listening on audio platforms that this is being streamed live on YouTube. So if you do have any questions for us, do drop us a message in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer them as we go through the show. But Sam, we're also running a bit of a league-wide poll at the minute to try and find out what the correct team of the season is, because it's fair to say the one that was posted, quite frankly, it didn't have Freddie Draper in there, so it is a bit of a scam. But it's caused a bit of discussion, I think.
Yes, and if you would like to vote in the team of the season, it is on screen now. Please follow the link if you would like to vote in the team of the season. It's 1 vote per person, so it's set up for a way that we can't have millions of fans from a specific club or repeating the scoring, to try and make it as balanced as possible. So this is the vote for the League One Lowdown team of the season, in the hope that we actually get the correct team of the season, unlike the actual EFL page. I think there was some debatable players in there. I'm going to be extremely biased. Richard Kone being in there over the likes of Sam Smith. You could arguably even say Alfie May, who's got more goals and assists than Richard Kone in literally half the games. So Alfie May deserves a shout out. You've obviously got Jay Stansfield. I think the reason Jay Stansfield isn't in there is, number one, because of the value he cost. And that's no offence to Jay Stansfield. That is just what they paid. And the second was the number of penalty goals he scored. I was surprised that obviously Kelman wasn't in there, because he's the league's top scorer. He is the most goals and assists as well. Keylor Dunn didn't overly surprise me, to be honest, purely because in a team that has struggled for any sort of consistency, he's been the one shining light, I think it's fair to say. And I think he's got 16 goals, I think, this season as well. From an attacking midfield position is rather impressive. The one that did not, out of all of them, the one that I thought was the least conclusive is Lewis Bate. Now, I personally highly rate Lewis Bate. I think he's a brilliant, brilliant footballer. But he'd only started, I think it was 23 games or something like that. I put it out on Twitter. He'd only started like 23 games. So he's nearly missed half of the season, roughly. And he's in team of the season. I think there's a lot better options, as you'll see in our polling there. I think there was a lot better options for that position than Lewis Bay. Not to say he's had a bad season, because he hasn't by any means necessary. But I think he's been put in there because if you look through the team, there's no Stockport County players in there other than him.
Yeah, a lot of it is about representation, isn't it? Of all the different teams. Like I look at the two Wrexham players in there. Are they the two best Wrexham players in the league? I look at the Birmingham players. Are they the three best Birmingham players? I don't know. And then Poku again is a bit questionable for me. Injury issues throughout. I'm right. It might just be my Lincoln-centric Twitter as well. Obviously, being a Lincoln City fan, but Porty O'Connor, like for me, he'll be one of them that get a move into the Championship next season, partly because his contract's expiring. But I think he's won Lincoln City more points this year than I'd argue any player has won their team points. Like he's been outstanding single-handedly this year. We could go on and on about this. So again, please let us know if there are any players from your team that you would put in the team of the season. First of all, make sure you put it in the League One Lowdown team of the season. That will be going out soon. We'll announce it after the season's finished because that's the only correct and right way to do a team of the season. Right?
You have until we Sunday the 11th of May is the closing date. So you have a week and a half.
Yeah, so again, make sure you get your votes in. Also, pop them in the comments as well. We'll come back to them throughout the episode and mention any players you think should be in there. We'll quickly touch on as well the battle for the Golden Boot. Now, I reckon it will take some miraculous comeback for this not to be the one trophy that Leyton Orient win.
What do you mean by one trophy? I think you mean the second trophy that we're going to get this season because we're going to win
second one?
The playoffs.
Wow, sure. Okay.
So yeah, I think it will be Kelman, barring some absolute miracle. Stansford is only 2 goals off him, and the amount of penalties Birmingham have had this year, you wouldn't put it past them getting some more. But they do face Cambridge United.
We have to get the digs in, don't we? As John says, this is the last time we'll probably get many Birmingham fans watching the show. We'll have to get a couple in.
They'll probably watch our 2 season reviews. Well, I hope they will, because they'll probably be getting a lot of plaudits in both of them.
Yeah, probably. And in this episode as well, to be fair. We'll talk about Birmingham a little bit later on. But I do think it's Kelman's to lose, isn't it, surely?
Oh, yeah. I fully expect him to score this weekend as well, to be honest. Like, if we've looked at... We'll get on to Huddersfield later, but if Orient don't at least score, we don't deserve anything. Just bin it off. Liquidate the football club.
Oh, that's a bold statement. That'll go straight on the socials. Sam says liquidate his own football club. I think it's one of them. It'd have been nice for, dare I say, Stansfield to have a couple of more goals, or at least there to be a bit of a battle. But when there's 2 goals, miraculous things can happen on the last day of the season. But I think it's Kelman's to lose. The one that's interesting for me is who's going to end up as the top goal contributor. I suppose you've got Kelman and Alfie May separated by 1 apiece. You'd imagine Birmingham want to go out with a bit of a vigor against Cambridge United. There are goals to be had there, I think. So will Alfie May get those 2 to overtake Kelman, or 3 to overtake Kelman? I wouldn't put it past him.
No, and you've got Davis, Keillor, Dunn as well, and they're playing. Barnsley are obviously playing Reading, the team who are hunting Orient for 6th place. You've got Richard Kone, while Wickham... How can I put this? Since Mike Dodds has come in, and we've said this before, I think it's all down to their January recruitment being so scattergunny. It's upset the harmony that was in that squad. And John says that Jay Stansfield will score 4 goals this weekend just to wind the rest of League One up. That wouldn't honestly surprise me. That would be a very
surprise anyone.
Yeah, and then we've got Paul saying an honourable mention for Matty Godden as well, a player who I think we both agreed that was the perfect replacement in a way for Alfie May in terms of a penalty box type striker. Experienced at League One level as well. He's had an excellent season, as have a lot of players. 17 goals and assists for Matt Godden this year. I can't see Richard Kone getting any higher than 22, so I don't think he will be. The only one to probably watch is Malik Mothersill, because you never know what Peterborough are actually going to turn up anymore. Like, if you look on when they played Tuesday night, they lost 4-2 to Mansfield, who only scored, I think, 10 home goals since January if you include the 4 they scored last night. So
yeah,
you don't know what's going to happen with Peterborough. So I think it's Kelman's to lose.
It's one of them, innit? It's the end of the season. I mean, we've seen already on some of the leagues that have ended already, the likes of the National League North and below them, because a lot of the non-league has wrapped up already. There's been mental end of the days, like 7 goals already in some of the end of the season games. So I feel like we're not going to do very well with our predictions this week, but we'll get to them in a minute. Obviously, worth mentioning, a couple of games have happened since we last did an episode. Obviously, the big one, Birmingham, 2-0 against Blackpool. As John says, Stansfield rested, so he's probably going to go all guns blazing, which is delightful. Mansfield, after being hammered by Birmingham, have decided to win a game of football against Peterborough United, no less. I think that was 4-0 at one point.
It was, yeah.
And I was just like, sorry, what has happened? Has Nigel Clough woken up or whatever? I don't know. But the big result was undoubtedly Burton Albion 1, Wigan Athletic 1. Burton Albion doing the great escape by League One standards. People will know with my Lincolnshire connections. Boston United is the greatest of escapes this season. Look it up in the National League. But it is no doubt incredible what Burton have done. Again, like you say, that they have a knack for keep on doing it since New Year's Day. They're 9th in the league, ahead of the likes of Bolton, Peterborough, and all, like a manner of other teams. Huddersfield will get onto where they are in the 2025 table in a little bit. But a word on Burton Albion, incredible again.
Yeah, I think like on our form we put Gary Bowyer to be nominated for a Manager of the Year vote. Because when he went in there, that club was dead and buried. They couldn't win a football match. They couldn't defend. They couldn't score goals. And I think the biggest thing he did, he went in and he stuck with a system. He gave confidence to a player in Ruben Burrell, who we knew was a goal scorer coming from Scotland. He's been a big part of everything good that Burton have done. He scored 10 goals. A big mention, I think, for JJ McKiernan, who's come in from, I think it was Lincoln City on loan in January, along with Charlie Webster as well. They've been exceptional for Burton. And when Gary Bowyer came in, we were like, "Oh, is this a good appointment?" But it's turned out to be arguably the Manager of the Season vote. And I've just seen a comment, Shuddersfield, which has made me laugh. But like you say, 9th since New Year's Day is really impressive. And a word on Wigan as well. Since Ryan Lowe has come in, they look actually a capable football team, and I think once he gets his philosophy completely across against over pre-season, I think they're going to be a very good team next season.
I seem that they're on this incredibly long unbeaten streak at the minute. Wigan are a lot of draws in there, which is kind of masking it, but slowly creeping their way up the table. Could finish as high as well, even including goal difference, it could finish as high as I think 12th. They could even get a top-off finish depending on results elsewhere, obviously. But that does leave us to talk about Crawley and Bristol Rovers. Both of them relegated. Crawley have been probably, other than Burton, the ones giving it the best shot towards the end of the season. Bristol Rovers. I'm going to not refer to the Lincoln drubbing they got and just say they've not offered anything. No. Bristol Rovers at all. They I don't know what it is, whether they have run out of steam, whether it's players, whether it is the manager, Inigo Calderon. I really don't know what it is, whether it's a combination of all of them. But something has gone horribly wrong at that football club, because they were in a Northampton situation. They were 5 points above the drop, and they for as much as we talk, Northampton in the conversation, Northampton were never really in the conversation, were they? As for Wigan and Exeter, they were never really in the conversation when we talk about it retrospectively. But like Bristol Rovers made themselves part of the conversation in effect.
Yeah, I think when Matt Taylor left, I think they were 17th, and we at the time questioned, is this a good move? I know they were, in terms of XG conceded, they had the worst in the league even under Matt Taylor. But it's even worse now. And I think a big part of that was losing Josh Griffiths in January. He got recalled by West Brom. And obviously Jed Ward come back from his loan from Forest Green. So that can play a part in the confidence that the defence has partly. And then on top of that, you've hired a manager who's come straight from youth team. He has a good reputation at Brighton, as a lot of people do nowadays at Brighton. but it maybe was a risk too far. If you're looking at the last 10 League One matches, they've won 1 and are bottom of the table with just 4 points. And that impressive home form has completely disappeared as well. It was quite, because they're quite a lot of investment in the summer as well. So I am surprised to see they went down, but there were murmurings with off the pitch issues as well as on the pitch. So I think as a collective, it's been a shocking season. And as John says, Bristol Rovers were one of the worst sides I've seen at St Andrews this season. And this season, I've seen some truly dreadful teams.
I'll be honest, John. It's normally Birmingham that makes every other side look dreadful. It's not necessarily the Bristol. I mean, Bristol Rovers have been terrible this season, but so is every side compared to Birmingham City. So,
and for Crawley, since Scott Lindsay's gone back, they were the one side that you thought have a bit about them. Like Kamari Doyle come in from January after the first half of the season, not really playing at Exeter. He's got 10 goals in that time. He's been extremely good. And if we look at the last 10 games, Crawley are 11th with 13 points. So they've at least given it a really good go of Crawley. And dare I say, if they had Scott Lindsay, if Scott Lindsay didn't leave to go to MK Dons, nick half his team, then go back to Crawley, they may have stayed up.
Yeah, it's that inability to stick with a manager long term, I think that's cost them. We're gonna actually move on to the important part of this podcast, I suppose, talking about all the games that are happening this week. Unfortunately, there is not a huge amount to talk about, I suppose, other than that battle for 6th. But we'll get on that onto that towards the end of the podcast, and we'll talk about kind of the bottom upwards, I suppose, in terms of the table. We'll start with a game that would have had a lot riding on it if the season had played out ever so slightly differently. Like Shrewsbury against Crawley. 10 weeks ago, we were looking upon this as probably the game to end all games at the end of the season, really. But both of them relegated. Do we see them? They can either both go for it or play the kids. How does this game work?
I think Crawley will go for it. I think if Michael Dappleton's going to be offered the Shrewsbury job and there is rumours of him getting that job permanently, I think he's going to be testing out. I reckon he's going to be testing out some fringe players to see what sort of squad he's got for next season. Whereas I think Crawley will go for it, because I listened to Scott Lindsay's pre-match earlier and he's talking about building a winning mentality at that football club and wanting to win every game regardless of sort of position and stuff like that. In terms of away form throughout the season, Crawley have won 4, scored 24 and conceded 47, which is the most away goals by anyone. And then on the caveat of that, Shrewsbury have won 5 home games, drawn 3, which is the lowest home points in the league. They've only scored 19, which is the lowest by 6, and they've conceded 35, which is the second worst. So I think Crawley will win, and I'm going to back them 3-1.
Yeah, it feels like they're both going to go for it. Whether they play some, I don't want to say kids, but some of the younger players, some of the project players, I suppose, that the managers know will be there next year. If both teams want to stick with those managers next year, it could be quite interesting to see who they play in their 11s, because we'll talk about Lincoln in a minute, but that's what the Imps have been doing. I think that's what a lot of mid-table teams do at this time of the year. And so in terms of this game, I see where you're coming with Crawley. I'll probably back them 2-0. I don't see Shrewsbury scoring. They've not exactly made a knack for it this year, have they? So we'll go 2-0. Blackpool against Bristol Rovers. We'll talk about Blackpool in a minute. Just another note on Bristol Rovers, as Paul said. Calderon reminded me of Ben Garner at Charlton, wanted to play progressive out from the back style, but didn't have the players to do it. It's that sort of tactical naivety, isn't it, that we've mentioned with Calderon several times. This desire to play a certain brand of football. He mentioned it, because this is one of the only post-match interviews I've heard of Calderon saying that the players know how they want to play. They just don't have the fitness and the energy to do it. Do you think it's that tactical naivety and stubbornness to just keep going, even though you can see that things are going wrong?
Yeah, totally. He's got this philosophy as a young manager, and he won't change. And hopefully, for his sake, he'll learn from it. And I think that's where the top managers in this league, people like Phil. I don't think Phil Parkinson's like that. I think Phil Parkinson has a way of playing and doesn't adapt, and that has been a criticism I've seen from Wrexham fans. I think someone like Dave Challoner, Richie Wellens, Chris Davis, they have that sort of adaptation in game sort of thing. And by all means, they all want to play a certain way of football. But if the game and the players don't fit that, they will adapt to win the football match. But we've not seen that from Calderon at all. It's you're playing this way regardless. If we lose 7-0, we are still playing this way. And it's like you're in a relegation battle. You don't need to look good on the eye. You just need to pick up points. And that's ultimately what's cost them. Injuries to their front line haven't helped. People like Omachair, who was looking extremely promising, getting injured hasn't helped. But I think it's a trend with most young modern managers nowadays. They all come in with this brilliant philosophy and this beautiful way of playing football, but sometimes it doesn't work. But because they're so stubborn and stuck in their ways, they don't adapt, which ultimately has cost Bristol Rovers.
I'll blame Football Manager and Gegenpress
Yeah.
for that.
4-2-3-1
like,
Gegenpress.
Yeah, I feel like that's the way they're playing at the minute. Blackpool, a note on them, 9th, but dare I say the end of their season has been slightly disappointing.
Yeah.
In the last 5, they've had a defeat, a victory, and then winless in the last 3, a loss, a draw, and a defeat last time out as well. Not the end of the season they'll have wanted. Going into next year, you'd kind of reckon with the teams coming down and some of the teams coming up, Blackpool are the sort of team that would kind of be pushing for that 4th, 3rd place spots next season, playoffs. They're not going to do that if they have a bad run of form going into next season. So I hope for their sake, and it's probably a good game, that they end on a win.
Yeah, 100%. It's just about winning, building a mentality, isn't it, of trying to win every week. And at one point, we did think they would try and break into that top 6, at least be in the battle with some of the games they had in hand, some of their fixtures, but it wasn't to be. Obviously, Steve Bruce has come in and done, I think, an okay job. I think there's obviously far too many draws. They've drawn 11 home games, which I believe is the worst of it. It's the worst of anyone in the league. The next highest is 8, and that's Barnsley. So it's a lot more than anyone. Their away form is decent, so I think they may be okay next year. It just kind of depends if they get Niall Ennis back, because Niall Ennis and actually Fletcher as a 2 in League One is really, really strong. And Steve Bruce, as we know, is a very experienced manager and has had numerous promotions from the Championship. I think only Neil Warnock's got more promotions from the Championship than him. So he knows how to build a winning team. It's just, obviously, there's been murmurs of off-the-pitch issues again at Blackpool. So it'll be interesting to see what they do this summer. But I think signing Niall Ennis permanently, who was linked with Wigan, it will be a big one for them.
In terms of predictions for this, I'm going to go 3-0 Blackpool. I don't know where the goals are coming from, but it's just one of them that all kind of form books go out the window in this game, I think.
Yeah, I've gone for 2-0 to Blackpool. I don't think Bristol Rovers are even going to show up, to be honest. They'll probably stay on the bus.
Yeah, it's one of the, I don't know if Bristol Rovers did it, but it's just reminded me of this new trend that we've seen saying, following results today, our place in Sky Bet League 2 has been confirmed. Just front up to it and just say that you've been relegated from League 1. It's the most annoying thing.
The best thing about Bristol Rovers' tweet was did you see the Northampton admin?
Oh, yeah. Oh, dear
that was
me.
Brilliant.
Oh, dear me.
Yeah, if you've not seen it, go on to Northampton's Twitter.
And then I saw for some reason I saw a Watford fan who took offence to it, and I was like, it's just a bit of banter, if I'm honest. Who cares? I should say, if that's also annoyed you, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you're following us on Spotify, wherever it is that you do. Please make sure you get involved. Obviously, you've got a lot of content coming for you over summer as well, only because the season's ending. We'll be with you throughout the playoffs, and then we'll be with you over the 2 months that we don't have the podcasts on. Yeah, I have been annoyed. Thanks, Kelly.
I'm pooing myself. I've got to be careful what I say. Demonetization happens.
He's very scared, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm very excited, but very nervous. I mean, that's the best way to put it. Wait until the Port Vale admin enters League One.
Oh, they're known for their tweets, aren't they? Oh dear.
Yeah, but they'll just go straight back down again, so it won't really matter. They'll only be here a year.
Oof. So done our score predictions for Blackpool and Bristol Rovers, and as I say, make sure you subscribe because we'll have plenty of content coming for you over summer. The final game towards the bottom of the table, then Cambridge against Birmingham. We don't need to talk about Cambridge. They've kind of been all sorts of infighting from what I can hear. So
Not our problem anymore.
We'll leave that to Fourth Tier Fever, our sister podcast, who would recommend Crawley, Bristol Rovers, Cambridge United, and Shrewsbury Town subscribe to. But Cambridge against Birmingham, they are just impeccable. Most amount of points in a Football League season. Yep. Unbeaten at home this year. I mean, they are just a good footballing side. John will hate me for saying this. There has to be an asterisk over how much money they've spent this year. There just has to be.
You had to say it, didn't you?
I just had to say it. But you cannot talk about how incredible they've been. They have spent more money than any League One side, I believe, has done in League One history, at least recently anyway. But you cannot get over the fact that they are an incredible side. It's okay, Kelly. Don't worry. It's okay. But yeah, they are an incredible side, Sam.
Oh, 100%. I think we've got to applaud Chris Davis for the way he's gelled this squad together and what they've done, what Huddersfield didn't do. They brought in a lot of players who didn't have this negative sort of feeling. Like Huddersfield have come down after 3 really poor seasons and kept most of their squad together. Birmingham brought in a fresh face, a young manager who wanted to prove himself with a completely different philosophy to everyone else, and brought players in who had a point to prove, I think it's fair to say as well. And if you look at, we'll use Christoph Klara as an example. He's come from abroad and has been arguably the best player in League One this year. He's definitely been the best centre-back, arguably the best player in League One this season. Like you say, they've broken all sorts of records. The only records they've not actually beaten is goals scored, which did surprise me. I thought they'd smack that out the park. And goals conceded. They've not broken them too. But I think they're only the second side ever to be unbeaten at home in League One. Ever, I think. And they've obviously broke record points across the whole of the EFL, beating Rangers 106. And they've still got a game left.
Yeah. I mean, to end the season on 111, which I'm sure they will do, is incredible. As John says, the new record is an incredible achievement. I mean, I don't know. My lifetime is hopefully quite long, so I hope someone beats it in my lifetime, just so it's quite fun. But you can never see what happens in football in the future, but it will be very, very difficult. It's going to be fun. I think, as Ryan says, some of the sides coming down are going to fall into the Rotherham Huddersfield trap. I don't think any of them have this mentality, this kind of rebuild mentality that Birmingham House will talk about. Some of the sides dropping down probably during the summer, because obviously they've still got one game to go. In terms of the game, Cambridge against Birmingham, we'll put our predictions in for this. This could either be a 0-0 and Birmingham are on the beach, or the way it's probably going to go is another 4-0 to Birmingham.
That's what I've gone for.
Yeah, I debated 5 because
go 6
Birmingham because Mansfield of that. No, I'll go 4. I'll go 4.
Go
4.
4-0. Okay. And then we've got the pretty irrelevant games next. No offense to these teams. I'm sorry if you support them, but your seasons have kind of unfortunately got nothing hanging on them, and you've kind of just been in mid-table near enough all season.
Yeah, these games will probably rush through quite quickly then. Rotherham against Peterborough. Peterborough being as Peterborough, back to usual Peterborough ways actually. A loss, draw, loss. The past 6. So they're back to Peterborough ways. Probably best that they had that kind of purple patch, didn't they, a couple of months ago? So we'll take that.
And they won a trophy, yeah.
And won a trophy. I suppose that kind of helps. So yeah, Peterborough, Rotherham, I kind of see this just being a 1-1, to be honest. I'm not very excited about this.
I was going to put 1-1, but as you put that, I'm going to back Rotherham to win 2-1.
Yeah, so we'll go 1-1 there. On to Mansfield versus Exeter. Again, not a lot to play for. In this one, Mansfield have avoided the drop somehow, given their terrible form this year.
It was their start, wasn't it? They were so good at the start of the season, because if we look at the League One table in 2025, Mansfield are bottom.
Yeah, they are terrible. They are terrible. Against an Exeter side who are So I'll go in this one. It's very difficult to kind of predict. I'll go 2-1 Mansfield, maybe.
Oh, okay. I've gone 2-1 to Exeter, so I've gone the complete other way.
Okay, interesting. For me, it depends what Mansfield side turns up, because if it's the same one that beat Peterborough 4-2, then they can do anything. Bolton against Stevenage. Again, not a huge amount to mention here. Bolton have missed out on playoffs. It's going to be a very disappointing summer for their fans. Negative goal difference as well, which I think a lot of their fans will be very confused of. Stevenage, just very Stevenage, I think. I do worry for them next season. We'll talk more about that in the summer. But I worry for them next year. I've mentioned on numerous occasions. This game, probably about Bolton 1-0, but I don't think it's going to be pretty at all.
I'm going to go 1-1. I think Bolton have probably been the most disappointing, other than probably Rotherham. I think Bolton have been the most disappointing team this season. I think that while they had Dion Charles, obviously, for the first 6 months, so they had a natural, proper number 9. I think they've had a little bit of playoff hangover. They never fell out with the fans. He fell out with the entire playing squad. His post matches didn't help. Stephen Schumacher coming in, you're thinking, right, off they go. They're on a bit of really good run of form, and they've just gone back to being Bolton. Like if we look at the table from New Year's Day, they're 10th, so they're gonna near enough finish where they've been all season, near enough. And Kelly's asked, what is the Rotherham Huddersfield trap in terms of they're both mid-table? They've come down from the Championship. They've spent quite a bit of money. And they're mid-table, lower mid-table.
Yeah, and it's. I don't want to say it's the other thing that I've kind of added into that is the kind of arrogance, this belief that we're the best team or we're one of the teams that should be in the argument. I kind of want to put Bolton in that. I know they've not been relegated, but this kind of aura around them that they think they should be on the upper end. The match that I'm looking forward to, no bias. Did I give my prediction for Bolton against Stevenage? I did, didn't I?
You did. 1-0, yeah.
Yep. Lincoln against Wrexham. I can safely say, from an Imps perspective, we are up for this. We are this season, other than last time out against Stockport, where we just capitulated in the second half, which was slightly embarrassing, if I'm honest. Yes, Ryan, up the Imps indeed. We love a bit of spoilery or housery, should I say? We're all up for that, and knowing that Wrexham are going to be there, with all the Hollywood crew there to celebrate their big day out in Lincoln and whatnot. We're up for this. And I just really, I don't know what Lincoln's going to turn up, but I really, really hope. And this is the one prediction I'm going to go in my heart over my head, and I'm going to predict Lincoln to win 2-1 here. I mean, don't get me wrong, Wrexham are an incredible side, and obviously a huge congratulations on them securing automatic promotion. We've not done an episode since then. Sorry, I should say, but. Huge congratulations to Wrexham. It's been lovely. Thanks for your company. We'll see you next year. And yeah, it's one of them, John. The gap to Birmingham has been incredible. They're just remarkable. Of course, Wrexham are closer to Reading in 7th than they are to Birmingham in 1st. That kind of shows to me just how, I don't want to say unfair the league has been, but unbalanced the league has been. But anyway, is this to do with Lincoln? Kelly.
Nathan
Lincoln.
Jones, ahead of Charlton, Wrexham, made a comment about going to the circus, and then Wrexham scored 2 in 5 minutes. That quickly put the circus to bed.
Oh, well. Skubala tends to not get drawn on. I've not heard the press conference yet, but he doesn't tend to get drawn on those sorts of things. He's been very even-headed about that. But yes, I'll go 2-1 Lincoln on this one.
I'm going to go 1-0, and if Orient do finish 6th, I owe Skubala a pint, because you obviously beat Reading. You've basically party-pooped everything because you went and beat Reading for us. So I owe Skubala a pint if we've actually finished 6th.
It would be funny, wouldn't it? Northampton against Wigan, for me, this is the definition of I will not be looking at this game at all. Like, if there are any games that I will be looking at, the final score or the Soccer Saturday vidi printer or whatever they call it now, I will not be looking for this game at all. I could not care less. Northampton against Wigan. Wigan in 16th, Northampton in 19th. Wigan probably going to win this 2-0, probably. I cannot see a world in which this game is interesting. If only, I mean, this game will now finish like 5-3, won't it? But I'll just go 2-0 Wigan.
Well, Northampton are the third lowest scorers at home, and Wigan are the third lowest scorers away, behind Stevenage and Bristol Rovers. I thought this had 0-0 written all over it, to be honest. But I'm going to back Northampton at home 2-1.
Okay, interesting. Hey-ho. Interesting. A message from Roy just saying, I'll say something positive about Mansfield. I do understand there's been a lot of injuries in the second half of the season for them. So, it's fair enough that they've stayed up. And obviously they are the one team, I think, that's come, other than Crawley, I suppose, that hasn't had, a huge amount behind them. So, all due respect, it is very hard to get promoted and then stay up the next season. Obviously, Crawley haven't managed it. So fair play to Mansfield. As much as we mock them, how bad they've been this year, there are obviously reasons for that. And obviously the result earlier this week, 4-2 against Peterborough, shows that you do have what it takes to compete at this level. So we'll see. We'll see. Blake, we'll get on to Huddersfield in a minute. Feeling a little bit bad for Huddersfield fans, but they would be the first to say we wouldn't the league. I will refrain from that one, but you know what I mean. We'll get on to Huddersfield in a minute as well. On to the playoff positions battle there. This is where it gets a little interesting, all to do with home advantage and stuff like that. That is all still to play for. Charlton against Burton. Burton with very little to play for. Charlton off the back of, I'm going to say, a drubbing against Wrexham. That would have done a lot to hurt the egos. But if there is one manager that is going to stop, that playing on the conscience too much, I kind of think Nathan Jones is that kind of player.
Yeah, 100%. And Charlton are exceptional at home. Only lost 2 home games all season, scored 35, conceded 15. It's their away form that's been patchy, I think it's fair to say, all season. And like you say, Burton have completed what they set out to do. So they may have a few sore heads after Tuesday night. So I've gone for a Charlton 2-0. I think while they're going to want home advantage if they win, and with Stockport playing Wickham, there is a huge chance for even them to get 4th. That gives them home advantage for the second leg, which is what you want. Charlton
could get 3rd as well, couldn't they?
So, they could, yeah.
Yeah.
It's unlikely. It's unlikely because if Stockport lose, then Wickham get 3rd. But so if it's a draw, it's a draw, then Charlton have to score 6. So
could happen.
It could happen. Stranger things have happened, but I think a 4th place finish for Charlton is very likely because I think there won't be a draw between Wickham and Stockport. I've gone for 2-0 to Charlton.
I kind of back that. I don't know whether Burton are going to be even more on the beach. I just imagine Burton just do not care anymore. They've done what they needed to do with a game to spare. I just think their feet will be up. I kind of think, I don't want to say a 4-0, but I kind of think a 3-0 is coming for Charlton here. I'm gonna back them by a goal a bit more. Mm-hmm. It's one of them. Nathan Jones feels like the type of manager that will get a team to bounce back.
Yeah.
Even if it means stopping them from going to the local shopping centre or whatever he did that last time out.
Especially at home as well.
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of the storyline for that one. Wickham against Stockport. This one is interesting. It kind of decides who gets 3rd, really, and gets that. I don't want to say easier tie because playoffs are always tough, but gets to play either Leyton Orient or Reading. If either side wins this, and they know they'll finish in 3rd, a draw would benefit Stockport County, but would leave them vulnerable, as I say, to Charlton. The issue is with Wickham, they've got 3 defeats in the last 6. Mm-hmm. Back-to-back defeats they're coming off the back of now. Mm-hmm. Wickham, if they do bounce back, they're not in the best of form, are they?
No, they're the team you want to play if you're going in the minute, because
100%.
They don't look like a team. Like when I went to Wickham away at the start of the season, and they basically murdered us. They were that good.
Mm.
They were so good. And obviously the Bloomfield departure hurt them. Then they recruited a load of players and then got a new manager. So I think there is a bit of discontent. I did see some discontent between the fans and the players last Saturday.
Yeah.
And there's probably some discontent in the change room because I can't imagine that some of these players that have come in for big money are on low wages as well.
Mm.
And I haven't seen many of their players who got them in this position with new contracts to boost their wages. So there's probably some disharmony in that squad. They've only scored 26 home goals, which is actually the worst in the top 9. And you could even go further down than that. It's actually the top 15 have all scored more home goals than Wycombe Wanderers this season. So they're away from home where Wycombe have been extremely strong. And Stockport County, they're the team you, along with Charlton, probably wouldn't want to play because they're in such good form. So I'm going to back Stockport to win 2-1.
I know the dates don't exactly line up, but since the 1st of January, Wycombe sit outside the playoffs. This is 7th in the table. This game, Stockport for me, third place would do them justice. I dare I say. I know they've not been there all season, but they had a bit of a wobble at the start of the season, if I remember correctly. But they have been incredibly consistent with their results.
Yeah.
So I back Stockport here. I really do. I reckon 2-0 Stockport.
Okay.
I don't know if I can see Wycombe scoring. And it's that Wycombe's kind of struggles as well have also, we mentioned Kone at the start of this episode. If you're listening to us live, then make sure you do rewind back once the stream's finished and you can catch the beginning of the podcast. We talked about the team of the season as well as a lot of other things. If you scroll up through the chat as well, you'll see our link for our League One Lowdown team of the season vote as well. So get your votes in there. Birmingham fans, when I last looked, there was a lack of Birmingham representation in some of the votes. So get voting, please, because we kind of want this to be an accurate representation, not just fan dominated, I suppose. But anyway, make sure you get your votes in for that. Stockport, other than that little wobble at the start, they've kind of been fairly accurate, fairly consistent is the word. Sorry, so third place feels right.
And how Dave Challoner wasn't even mentioned in the vote for a manager of the season is embarrassing.
It is. It's terrible. It is actually terrible, and I think they are the side to watch going into the playoffs. Regardless of, I know that you can say that technically Orient are the best. I think Orient are the best team in the league in the last 5, aren't they? The only team to have won all 5, I believe. But I'd argue Stockport. I'd worry more about facing, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I don't want us to play Stockport.
No,
but we probably will.
You probably will, but yeah. On to our penultimate game, Reading against Barnsley. Then Reading need to win this, and we'll get on to Orient in a minute, but Reading need to win this and hope that Orient drop points at Huddersfield or win this by a considerable amount of goals more than Orient beat Huddersfield. That is technically a way around this, but this is why we say that goal difference is worth a point, because it is really at this end of the season. Barnsley, again, disappointing, not even guaranteed a top half finish. We won't talk to review show host Seb about this. He'll probably be in tears. But for Reading, it looks like the off the pitch stuff is sorting itself out. I've not seen an official statement.
No, I don't think we'll get them until the season's finished.
Yeah, which feels probably, it's annoying, isn't it? But dare I say, I'm glad they're not getting playoffs at this rate, because I would rather the off the field stuff be like, if they get promoted to the Championship, that throws a huge spanner in the work for the negotiation. They can just turn around and just say, actually, we could be in the Championship. We want more money because the earning potential's higher and stuff like that. So it's a huge, it's a whole mess, isn't it? Let's be honest.
I think it's worth mentioning as well how if Reading were a kick away from the Premier League in 2016 when Dai Young was looking to buy the football club, and if Reading had got promoted, Dai Young wouldn't have got hold of that football club because the Premier League would have rejected him. The Premier League advised the EFL not to let him own Reading, and the EFL went and just let him take ownership of the football club, and that's gone as well as everyone, I think, thought. So
Mhm.
I think if you ask Reading fans, what would you rather? The takeover to be completed and you miss out on playoffs, or you get playoffs and your ownership may not change? I think they'd rather the ownership change.
Yeah, 100%.
And weirdly, out of their last 5 games, they only had one at home, and that was against Lincoln, and they lost it. They've been better away recently than they have at home, and their home form's one of the best in the league. So,
in terms of predictions, then for this one, I back Reading. I think they'll win. I think they'll do their part. I think 2-0, maybe even 3. I'll go 3-0. Actually, I think it's one of them that they'll continuously do their part, but it won't be enough. It'll be one of those horrible situations where I think Reading will take the. We see it all the time on the ending of the season where Reading take the lead early on, and then they do their part throughout the whole show. The whole day. There's no question of that. But because Orient do their job as well, as Reading are powerless to stop it really. So I'll go 3-0.
And I've gone for 3-1 to Reading. I can't see a world in which Barnsley win. I'm debating 3-1, 3-2 because Barnsley are so good going forward, they just can't defend.
Yeah.
But I'm going to stick with 3-1.
Yeah, we'll go with that. John's saying the EFL being incompetent. Now that is a shock. I do not know what you could mean at all by that, John. We will remain completely impartial and we'll remain completely impartial and won't comment further on that matter. But our silence is deafening, I think is fair to say. On to Huddersfield against Leyton Orient. We could do a whole podcast on Huddersfield, to be honest. But I'm going to just throw this stat in there, which I discovered about 10 minutes before we went live. Huddersfield, if you started the season on January the 1st, Huddersfield would be getting relegated. They are on 21st place. They have exactly the same amount of points as Bristol Rovers and Cambridge United, both sides already relegated. They have a worse goal difference than Cambridge United. They've only got 4 more points than Shrewsbury and Mansfield this season. So Huddersfield, we could talk forever about what they've done, but when you think about the signings they made in January, Joe Taylor for me is the big one. It is incredible, isn't it, that this is a Joe Taylor, right, who last season was involved in arguably one of the best in-runs of the season with Lincoln City, has now been involved in a relegation-worthy 2025 with Huddersfield Town. Like, I'm not saying Joe Taylor. By the way, I'm not saying Joe Taylor's the reason for that. I just find it incredibly funny, if I'm honest.
I think it's a weird one for Huddersfield. I've obviously been very open with. I think their recruitment was a mess in the summer, which has cost them because they lose a couple of games and they just forget how to play football. And like you mentioned, they're 21st since New Year's Day, and that is for a club the size of Huddersfield is embarrassing. And to be honest, if they don't get this summer right, they'll end up in League Two next year.
Very well.
Fans aren't happy that the season card prices obviously went up as well. So I don't think you'll have the numbers that they're looking for in that as well. Since New Year's Day, they've won 2 home games and only scored 8 goals. So I think when Michael Duff went in, I thought that's a decent appointment for League One. I think Michael Duff's a good manager. I don't think he was properly backed in the summer. Yes, he bought Lasse Sorensen and a couple of other players, but Lasse Sorensen got injured. So they've had so many injuries to the defensive line. They lost Hellick in January and never replaced him. So this summer is absolutely huge for Huddersfield Town. We've got a couple of comments. We've got good evening to Jamie. We've been told to do a whole Huddersfield Town podcast.
Happily. Honestly, happily.
We've got Huddersfield, another club run by a total fool. He's quite active on the old Twitter. He's is it Kevin Nagel who owns the football club, and then Huddersfield Let Me Down had them for playoffs at the start of the season. Yeah, I think a lot of us would have predicted Huddersfield to at least be.
For me, they were a nail on for like 5th or 6th.
Yeah,
I thought they had 5th or 6th, and for the first half of the season, that's what it looked like. Yeah. But like you say, 5 defeats in a row, as someone's pointed out there. But like you said, lost the last 5. It's probably going to be 6, looking at the form that Leyton Orient are in. And I think that's probably the perfect segue to talk about Leyton Orient, who I remember you saying I don't know whether you said it with 5 or 6 to go, but you said for us to get playoffs, we need to win our last 6th. And I think I just kind of scoffed and just went, not a chance. Not a
well,
chance.
you also all scoffed at me when I said Orient would be 10th after Christmas. The Christmas
and we did all laugh at that, didn't we?
Yeah, and they beat that. So
yeah, they did.
My only thing, and Orient fans will probably agree with me, Richie Wellens won't, because he said it's a different Orient now. It will be a very Orient thing to do to beat Wickham at home and put in an exceptional performance and then not beat Huddersfield. That is the Orient way. But there does seem to be, with Wellens at the helm, a completely different mentality, not just within the fan base, but within the entire club, that something special could be done. I remember when we lost 5 in a row, he was saying maybe we're not good enough to get playoffs and it's not our time. And since then, we have gone on to we've won, I think, 5 in a row. We draw with Wigan in there as well. So we're unbeaten in 6. And I think the big part of what has changed in the past sort of 7 months, because we were looking in November, Orient were 21st or whatever we were, since the 18th of October, when Josh Keeley made his debut, Leyton Orient would be 4th in, sorry, that's New Year's Day, that one. They would still be 4th. 18th of October to now, they would be 4th in League One with 67 points, just 2 points off Wrexham, a point behind Stockport, but Stockport would have played a game more in that period. And I look back to the start of the season. We were playing exceptionally at the start of the season. I'm not going to lie. I looked at the Bolton home game. We lost a 2 point. We arguably lost that game because of our goalkeeper, Zach Hemming. We then played Birmingham at home. We lost that because of our goalkeeper. We should have had a point there. Sadly, I went back through everything. And I believe we've thrown away at least 8 points.
Yeah.
Really.
And that would have put you, well, that would have put you probably,
third,
5th. Yeah, no, it'd put you 8 points would put you 5th. 83 points, 1 point off Stockport and Wrexham.
I think it should have been a lot more comfortable than it is. But I think if you offered any Orient fan at the start of the season, I said this last week, if you offer any Orient fan, you're 6th going into the final day and it's in completely your hands. You've had a Carabao Cup away trip to a Premier League club in Brentford. You beat Millwall in that run, who everybody hates. You played Manchester City at home and you scored from the halfway line and led at half time.
Well, you didn't technically score from the halfway line. It was an own goal.
You're not taking that away from him. And it took Kevin De Bruyne to score against Leyton Orient to beat us. Yeah. I think Orient fans would have snatched your hand off. And to be in that position is... Go on.
I've got one question for you, Sam.
Yeah.
Have you got your ticket to the Orient Express direct to the playoff semi-finals?
Well, I'll be getting a playoff semi-final ticket. I can't go to the game at Huddersfield this weekend. Which is
do you reckon you'll get it? Do you reckon you'll get the playoffs then?
Yes. Let's be real. I can't not back us. Huddersfield are terrible. And this is going to be clipped when Huddersfield beat us on the final day. And then what will happen is Reading will go and lose as well. And it'll just be the Orient way of getting into things. But I look at like some of the other games, like Charlton away. We lost it in the 90th minute. Charlton at home, we lost it through 2 90th minute corners. But the biggest compliment I can pay is Josh Keeley has come in at 21 years old and completely put a confidence in this backline, along with people like Omar Beckles, who were greatly missed with injury. He scares the crap out of me whenever he gets the football at his feet, but he is a leader from the back, and you can tell when you miss him. Dan Happy, in my opinion, would be in the Championship if he was fit. And then you've got Charlie Kelman, who we didn't buy in January because we thought QPR valued him too highly. The geezer's gone and scored about 20 goals. He's the top scorer in Europe since New Year's Day, and now the top scorer in League One. And now we're never going to be able to afford him. So we've got a goal-scoring striker. We've got a manager who is extremely ambitious and knows how to win promotions, both as a manager and a player. So, and we go into these playoffs with absolutely no pressure. There's pressure on people like clubs like Charlton. There'd be pressure on Wickham because they've been up there all year. Stockport kind of have a free hit regardless if they've been there all year because they have just been promoted like Wrexham. So I think it'll be Stockport in 3rd, and then Orient will finish 6th. And we've beaten Stockport away, we won 4-1, and we lost 1-0 at home. So yeah, that'll be a interesting one. But I'm going to back us to beat Huddersfield. I'm going to back us to win 3-1, but go behind.
You think you're going to go behind in this one?
We've gone behind in 4 of the last 5 and won all 4. Won 4 of them.
I quite like that stat, actually. I quite like that. I don't think it'll be that difficult. I think it'll be 2-0 Orient. I think it'll be comfortable.
Know what? That would do my blood pressure the world of good if that was to happen.
Yeah.
Score nice and early. Score just after half time. Lovely.
I should say to the people watching and listening to us, we will be doing a preview episode for the playoffs on Wednesday next week. That will be out for you to listen to, Wednesday or Thursday next week, I should say. So make sure you subscribe, follow, make sure you got those notifications on for us, and you won't miss that. And then we'll be doing a review of the playoffs. Make sure you've got all those notifications on, because we're not going anywhere, even though the playoffs are among us. So it's going to be a busy couple of weeks, Sam.
Oh, 100%. And we've got loads coming over the summer as well. And if anyone has any questions before we end, put them in the chat now, or forever hold your peace.
Just a quick fire question. We've got time for a couple of questions.
We've got obviously when the kits come out, we're going to be ranking all the kits.
Yeah.
We're going to be ranking managers. We're going to be ranking stadiums. Lots of more fruitful, I think, and light-hearted content throughout the summer. And obviously we've got to look at the new promoted and relegated sides as well. So there's lots of juicy goodness to come. Roy thinks Stockport County will win the playoffs. The only thing I'll say about Stockport is I remember last time in the playoffs, they got to Wembley and they lost to Carlisle. But for Carlisle, it's gone extremely well since that fruitful day of beating Stockport, now in the National League. So.
Yeah. I think, like we said earlier in the episode, Stockport, they're the ones to beat. Ryan, as you probably know, is a Lincoln fan. Will Rob Street win the Golden Boot next season? I would very much love for him to do so. Obviously, it's a very different kettle of fish fighting in battling in League One than League Two. But for all intents and purposes, he's done very, very well. At Doncaster, I imagine Doncaster will probably try and put a bid in for him or whatnot. Paul saying, hoping that Roy is wrong. It's been nice actually watching a few debates in the chat as well go as we've been recording this episode. Nice to see so many people getting involved. If these live streams ones are the ones that you do like, these episodes that you do like, then do let us know. We'll try and do a couple more of them over summer that are a bit more chatty ones that we can kind of have more conversations with you in the chat as well, because it's a lot of fun. We're over 1,000 subscribers as well now, so big thank you to all of you for helping us do that and achieve that. It's hugely appreciated, and we're looking forward. Who knows when we'll hit 2,000 subscribers. I think our next aim is for the population of the Pirelli Stadium. We'll aim for that, I think, which we can't be too far off that, surely.
We can't be far off their average attendance.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all.
Well, if we have Salford next year, we'll be probably the size of their fan base
already. Yeah, so you never know. But I think that is all we've got time for on this episode of League One Lowdown. Thank you, everyone, for getting involved, all your comments, all your questions, and we look forward to doing another one of these very soon. We aim to do one live episode every month. So before we go, just please make sure you are subscribed, got those notifications on, and Birmingham fans, from the preview show, it's been a lot of fun knowing you. Please make sure you tune into our season review episodes as well, so we can praise you a little bit more. But for now, that is all we've got time for. Thank you very, very much.
And up the Orient.